Good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. So my name is Amanda and I am the registered dietitian here at the Wellness Center and one of the inpatient dietitians over at the hospital at Berkeley Medical Center. So today I wanted to just take a few minutes and talk a little bit about protein. So protein is a huge topic that I could talk about forever, but today I just wanted to take a few minutes, skim the surface, talk a little bit about what protein is, where it's found in our food, what it does for us in our body, and just give you a few tips for things that you can be doing in your daily diet. So, to begin, what is protein? Protein is one of our three main macronutrients. And macronutrients are the things in our food, the components of our food that give us energy. They provide us with calories. And we have three main macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And today we are focusing on protein. So, protein is found in a variety of different foods from both plant and animal sources, including meat and poultry, dairy, eggs, nuts and seeds, shellfish and fish in general, soy products, whole grains, as well as some vegetables as well. So protein can be found in a variety of different foods. And for the most part, I feel like people typically are pretty good at being able to identify where their protein is coming from in their diet, which is great. And we are going to talk a little bit about this again in a few minutes, but first I wanted to talk a little bit about why protein is so important. So protein is really, really crucial for our body for so many different things. So for one, protein is part of almost every single cell in our body, and it is crucial for our growth and development throughout every throughout our entire lifespan. So from day one until the end, protein is really, really, really crucial. So protein also is important to help build and repair all of our cells as well as all of our body tissue. So that is really important because we are constantly building new cells, repairing body tissue. And this is a really great example of where some individuals would require more protein than others. So if you are someone who is living with a chronic catabolic condition, if you have cancer, especially if you have cancer and you are receiving any form of treatment, if you have COPD, if you have chronic wounds, whether it is pressure injuries or diabetic ulcers, any of these would be great examples of people who would require more protein because they are constantly building and repairing, more cells and more body tissue than your average person. So we are requiring more protein to help our body do that more efficiently. Protein is part of our skin, our hair, our nails, muscles, bones, as well as all of our organs, and it also is present in almost all of our body fluid. So this is a great example, another example of where some people would require more protein. So if you have a condition where you are constantly getting fluid removed, such as if you have end-stage renal disease on chronic dialysis, if you get, chronic paracentesis, if you are in the hospital with any kind of tubes, chest tubes, anything like this, where you're getting fluid removed, these individuals would require more protein to compensate for that protein that we are losing in our body fluid. Protein is also important for many body processes, including blood clotting, fluid balance, immune response, our vision, production of hormones, and enzymes, antibodies, all of these different types of things. Also, when we eat protein, it helps us feel full and stay full longer. So this is important because it helps give us consistent energy throughout the day and can help prevent us from overeating because it helps us to feel full. It aids in satiety. So protein is very, very important. It does a lot of amazing things for us, and it is very important that we're getting an adequate amount of protein. So switching gears a little bit, another thing that is really important to talk about when we talk about protein are amino acids. So amino acids are the basic units or the building blocks of protein. And we have 20 different amino acids. And these amino acids come together, they form strands, they form structures that define all of our different unique proteins. And when we talk about amino acids, we have two different main types of amino acids: our essential amino acids and our non-essential amino acids. Our essential amino acids are essential for our body to continue functioning properly. And we have 9 essential amino acids. And if you are wondering, they are tryptophan, valine, threonine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, phenylalanine, methionine, and histidine. These are our 9 essential amino acids, and so we need them. Our body cannot make them, and we cannot obtain them from any other source except the food that we are eating. So we have to get all of our essential amino acids from our food. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this in just a second. Our non-essential amino acids are our remaining 11 amino acids, and we still need them for our body to function properly. But the cool thing is that our body can actually make them, derive them from the process of breaking down proteins, and we can get them from our essential amino acids. Our body can actually make them, which is super, super awesome. So with that being said, we know that not all proteins are created equal. They are not all the same, and we categorize them, we characterize them according to how many essential amino acids they contain, as well as the amount of essential amino acids that they contain. So when we talk about proteins in this regard, we have 3 different categories. And our first we refer to as our complete proteins. So what complete proteins are, they are proteins that contain all 9 of our essential amino acids in adequate amounts, which is awesome. And so we find complete proteins from mostly our animal sources, so meat, poultry, eggs, dairy, fish, as well as soy products, including tofu, edamame, soy products like this, as well as some grains as well, specifically quinoa, buckwheat are examples of some grains that are complete proteins, which is super awesome. So on the other hand, we have our incomplete proteins. So incomplete proteins are proteins that are either lacking one of those or more of those essential amino acids, or do not contain all of the essential amino acids in adequate amounts. And most of our plant-based protein sources are incomplete proteins, including most of our beans, our grains, our nuts, seeds, and our vegetables as well. These are examples of incomplete proteins. But don't be scared. Don't stop eating plant-based sources of protein, because our third category we call complementary proteins. And this is super awesome, because what happens is when we take 2 or more incomplete proteins and we eat them together, they can actually compensate for the lack of essential amino acids that each other have and form a complete protein. So for example, grains are typically very low in the amino acid lysine, while beans and nuts are typically very low in the amino acid methionine. But what happens is when we eat grains and beans or nuts together, they actually form a complete protein. So a great example of this would be eating beans and rice together, peanut butter on whole wheat toast, as well as hummus, which is made from chickpeas, with pita wheat bread. That would be a great example. All of those examples of how incomplete proteins can come together and form a complete protein, which is super, super awesome. So another thing that we do know is that the typical American adult, anyone following a typical American diet, gets plenty of protein. I rarely see people who aren't getting enough protein in their diet, which is super great. But one thing I will say is that we typically tend to see people not getting protein from the most ideal sources. So when I say protein, most people think meat, which is totally true. There's nothing wrong with that. Meat is a great source of protein. It's a great source of complete proteins. But if we are pretty much solely depending on meat to get all of our protein, to meet our protein needs, we typically see ourselves getting an excess amount of other things, some undesirable things in our diet, such as saturated fat, sodium, cholesterol, sometimes trans fats, especially if we are eating, fast food, fried, breaded meats. So in terms of protein, totally fine. Complete proteins, adequate amount of proteins. But when we take a step back, look at it from an overall nutrition standpoint, it's not really ideal when we're getting all of those other things, those unhealthy fats and cholesterol and sodium. So the best piece of advice that I can give you is to try to get your protein from a variety of sources, from both plant and animal sources. So if you, still are gonna go and try to get all of your protein from meat sources, that is totally fine. But try to go for maybe some leaner meats, some chicken, some turkey. Fish is a great source of lean protein. Not only does fish, not have a lot of sodium and saturated fat, it, on the other hand, has a great amount of our unsaturated fatty acids, our heart healthy fats, as well as our omega-3s. I also encourage you to try to get in some plant-based protein sources. So plant-based protein sources not only are a great source of protein, but they also are a complete nutritional package. They have a lot of vitamins and minerals, fiber, they have antioxidants, they have a lot of complex carbohydrates, which are really, really great for our health and our diet overall. So trying to get a variety of plant and animal-based protein sources is really the way to go. One last thing I want to touch on is in regards to the nutrition facts label. So when you are reading the nutrition food label, which please do that, please read the nutrition food label on all processed foods that you are eating. Go ahead and check out how much protein is in that product. When you are reading the label, down at the bottom, before you get to the micronutrients, is the protein section. It is going to say protein in bold, followed by the amount of protein in the product in grams. And then sometimes you will see the percent daily value of protein as well. So food manufacturers can actually choose if they want to include the percent daily value of protein in a product or not. One thing is that if they're going to make a claim regarding protein, so if it says, high protein, rich in protein, anything like this, they have to put the percent daily value of protein on the food label. And this percent daily value is based off of an overall daily protein goal of 50 grams per day. So some research has shown that, your average American female or adult female needs about 46 grams of protein. Your average adult male needs about 56 grams. So just averaging out a nice pretty number of 50 grams per day is what the nutrition facts label is kind of gearing you towards. So everybody is different. Everybody needs different amounts of protein per day. As I just mentioned before, with those chronic, catabolic diseases, chronic fluid removal, these individuals are going to require more protein. There's also other people who are going to need increased amounts of protein. If you are working out a lot, doing a lot of strength training, if you are a breastfeeding mother, you're going to need a lot more protein than just your kind of average person. So keeping that in mind. So I'm not going to recommend a certain amount of protein in this video because that would be inappropriate because everybody is different, but I am just leaving you with the fact that the nutrition facts label goes off of a base number of 50 grams per day. So if you see a percent daily value, if it is 5% or less, that is considered a low protein food. If it is 20% or more, that is considered a high protein food. So kind of base yourself on this. Another interesting fact is that there is some research showing that our body is unable to utilize more than 30 grams of protein at one time. So I don't recommend, if you are going for 50 grams of protein today, to sit down and consume 50 grams of protein at one time. As I said before, protein is really important for a lot of different things, also including blood sugar regulation, aids in satiety, things like this, provides us with consistent energy throughout the day. So we really do want to be aiming for consistent protein intake throughout the day, so pacing yourself throughout the day. So just a good kind of overall goal maybe would be to aim for about 15 to 20 grams of protein at every meal, as well as getting in at least a small amount of protein with each snack if you are able to throughout the day. So this is all of the information that I wanted to cover today regarding protein, kind of just skimming the surface of protein. I hope you enjoyed everything that I said, learned a little bit. If you have any other comments regarding protein, please go ahead and comment them on this video. I would love to read them. I'm sure everyone else would love to read them too, as well as if you have any other questions or comments regarding just nutrition in general. With that information, I will leave you go for the day. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and I will see you all later. Thank you.